Well, welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about sun transits 16 and 35. And I always have to check and make sure I get it right. So we're going to be exploring around, seeing what we can learn and what we can play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. So we're in interesting times, emotionally, verbally, and that seems going to continuing for some time now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in these Gemini throat gates, right? And I feel like for sure I've noticed lots of that talky energy around me for sure, and even within myself. And so gate 16 is no different. We are still in these throat gates. Most of the energies today are throat energies. Gate 16 is the gate of skills. It is the channel, it's part of the channel of the wavelength, which is a design of talent. And so this particular, the voice of this gate is I experiment, right? And so this is the energy to really dig in and re repetitively do something in order to gain that skill, right? And so people that have this gate are often seen as quite skillful and to the point of talent, right? It's one thing to have a skill and have it, halfway, and it's another thing to really refine and hone a skill into a talent. And that's what this energy carries. And this experimenting voice is part of it, right? There's a willingness to experiment. There's a willingness to play around and do things over and over again, which is interesting. Remind me of this because when we talk about 35, it's mirror gate, and then in a minute, it isn't so much inclined to do that. So I think that's interesting. Um, but anyway, so again, this is about digging in, learning. It's attached in its channel to gate 48, which is the gate of depth. And so it really wants to understand and perform at a high level. It wants to achieve mastery, right? And I think that that's the city, isn't it, in the gene key, Lois?
Yes. Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
right. Yeah. And so mastery really is something that we see in this energy. And so this is something, in the next, I guess we're here in this gate from the 26th of May to the 31st, the very last bit of May, to notice, right? To notice in yourself. Are you feeling that push to dig in a little more deeply, to hone something that you're already working on, or are you seeing it in the world with, the people that you love? Because it's pretty powerful energy. It's a collective energy. It's here for all of us to advance as a collective. So,
It's interesting when you talk like the skills to talent and also like this, the use of mastery as the city is our world is very caught in skills in that place of being the expert. And that place of the like holding the expert in a higher regard, it's like it's trapping people and interfering with their ability to actually master, right? Because when we get so caught in the skill, and we watch this with people, they are extremely skillful. And it's like they're not thinking bigger and beyond, and they get so caught in their way of doing things that they can't bring anything else in. So there is one way to do it. And it's the idea of encouraging people to not get trapped, which I know is really, really hard in our world.
Yeah, Lois, that really resonates with me with a conversation I was having earlier today with a dear friend in England, and we were talking about how folks that are experts in subject matters get themselves stuck in their own vocabulary and the dogma. And it reminded me, as you were talking about, Richard Rudd has a quote, and I won't be able to quote it, but I'll paraphrase it of, we create systems so that we can go beyond them. That's how it's meant to be. Maybe one of you remember his exact words there. No.
Not
Okay, good. Well, then our memories are
You did a good job.
not that we're competing or anything, but we were talking about a couple of different situations of how that happens, and I think having been in a position myself like that, you lose touch with the people you're trying to communicate with because you're so caught in your own thinking that you can't possibly understand that someone else could see it differently. And I think um, just this way of kind of stepping out and seeing things differently, that shows up in a number of the astrological transits that are happening. But that was really interesting because I just had that conversation an hour ago.
Yeah, I love that because it is highlighting the potential in this energy. You know, the gift is versatility, right? And so it makes me think, and I've talked about it many times, it makes me think of beginner's mind, right? Like this idea that we can be both masters and novices all at once, right? And that's a state of mind. And this energy is here to be a sharing energy, right? A collective energy is about sharing, right? You're not honing your skills necessarily. This isn't an individual energy, like I'm just doing my own thing because this is what I need to do to make change in the world. This is a collective energy. This is I'm doing these things, I'm learning these skills at a deep level because somewhere inside of me I understand that this is going to be needed to be shared in the world, right? And whether we have any conscious awareness of that or not, you know, it doesn't really matter because that's what the energy is here to do. So again, if we start getting stuck in our expertise and if we stop being able to be, experimental and all the things that we need to learn new things, then this energy isn't really helping. It's not serving anyone, right? Not just you, but not the greater good, not the greater collective either.
In Brina Magnuson was talking about this, used the dog as a totem in terms of loyalty in this. I'm being loyal to a certain way of thinking or a certain way of being, and sort of getting trapped in that, and like how loyal dogs can be. And I was thinking about like there's an upside and a downside to that. And I was out for a walk the other day, and first off, there was this rather lost looking young man with his dog, and the dog was just kind of dragging itself along. And uh, it's just sort of looking at it and going, there's a commonality between owner and dog. Later on, because there's another person out, the dog's running around, they're throwing a ball, and it's all lively and enthusiastic. And so there's because so relating this to the dog is that we can be the loyal um, partner in something, but it's like looking at whether or not we're getting something out of it, or are we just giving everything to it? And so that there needs to be, yes, I'm going to be loyal, but there needs to be some sort of reciprocity coming the other way. So I think if we're in a space where we're feeling loyal or needing to be loyal, is like, what is it bringing us? Not just am I being loyal because I think I've, found the way or somebody to follow.
Hmm. Hmm. So I might take this the other direction, and that topic looked like it lit up something new, Christine. So I don't want to hop off.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, Lois used the word enthusiasm, and so
Yeah.
all I would say is
Yeah.
like enthusiasm is part of this energy, right?
Yeah.
You have to be enthused to do something over and over again in order to learn something deeply. And so, and in regards to loyalty, like I don't honestly think of loyalty as an enthusiasm thing, right? And so it's something usually we do, or at least in my individual nature, I'm like, oh, I can be loyal, but I'm not enthusiastic about it. But I just think that it's interesting to think about that energy, right? Like uh, are we doing the things that we're doing in the world from an enthusiasm, standpoint, or are we doing it out of some sort of, should or some sort of other energy? So that was the only thing I was thinking about in that space.
Well, you just built the bridge here for me, so thank you. So when you said that though about loyalty, enthusiasm, I think that's what activists are. I mean, you can watch groups of people that are protesting or actively, they're enthusiastic and they're loyal about a particular cause. So I think you see that from the I Ching perspective, this word enthusiasm is what's used to translate the gate 16, but the question is how can you use your enthusiasm constructively? And when I was looking at that, I realized that that ties directly to the astrological transit that kicks off this 5.5 day period, and that's Mars squaring Pluto. And what's really interesting, so Mars is all about might, right? And will and strength and power. So we need that, right, to achieve things and to get to mastery. But if we're doing it without wisdom and it's only might, then we end up with challenges like we're seeing in the world today, where it's power without thought and sense of responsibility. And it's, I think, I would think this is a wonderful 5.5 days to kick off something for yourself, whether a course of study or um, a project, because you're going to get that extra push there, and you're also going to have that benefit of the energy of enthusiasm, so right from the end. And then we end up with this full moon right at the end of the transit, but I think that full moon actually fits the next gate a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, your the human design totally supports exactly what you're saying about the astrology, right? Mars is in gate 3, Pluto's in gate 41. Both of them are about change and mutation, right? So kicking off something new is 100% aligned from this perspective as well.
There was one other thing I was thinking about related to this gate, and it's the shadow that Richard Rudd speaks about, and the shadow of indifference.
Mm.
Something I think we're seeing a lot of in the world. Is it like this sort of, well, somebody else will deal with that, or so not getting engaged because it's not going and voting because other people will go and do that and it'll all be fine, or not getting, like, being the activist and speaking up is like there's so many parts of our lives where we just sort of let things drop. And I think that would be something really to pay attention to. It's like if you're not engaging with life when you're being indifferent. So what really matters? I mean, what are the things that make you enthusiastic and make you want to do things? I think those would be really important things to pay attention to.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that is the issue with modernity, right? There's so much coming at us all the time. I think it's very hard for us to step outside of all the things we have to do in order to just get by, to actually give ourselves time to be like, what is it I'd like to do? What is it I am enthusiastic about, right? Like it's really tricky when we don't feel necessarily like we have the space or the capacity to do it. But it is also one of those things that if we do just a little bit, it actually gives us more capacity, right? It does build our capacity. And so even the smallest step towards doing something that lights you up and something that speaks to you and that you want to learn more about and you want to practice, I think it's really important. I think about actually my older son is working on cars, old cars, not so old cars, just junky cars with friends. And part of the reason he's really interested in doing it is because of this skill building, right? Like he feels that it's important for us to all understand or be able to at least, patch a car back together because we don't know, right? We don't know what the future holds, and having that kind of skill is really, useful. And I see him bringing in these other kids doing that. So I just think, and it's in small steps. Like they're not fixing whole cars overnight. They're patching one simple little thing and they're learning a little bit here and there. And that's essentially, I think, what this energy is looking to do, right? Adding a little bit of knowledge, you know, consistently over time until you look around, you know, a couple months down the road and you're like, oh, wow, I know how to do this thing now, and I'm actually pretty good at it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like there was even a lighting up, even though it's not you. Even as you were talking about him, there was a lighting up going on, which is that it kind of fits this idea as well. So it's bringing light into the world.
Mhm. Mhm. So shall we have a Gemmo for this gate?
Mhm.
So this Gemmo, I think, hits on a number of the threads that we've talked about. And the first one, we've talked about it. This is a gate of throat gate, right? And it's about vocalizing. And the Gemmo is lithy. And so one of the things that we found through anecdotal studies of lithy, not using it for this reason, but we discovered people were able to say things that they'd held within for a long time. In fact, many of the women that were part of the study were like shocked at things they came out and said, you know, that, and but it gave the voice to what they were feeling, which I think this is, you know, this indifference. We feel indifferent because we are not connected to our inner voice. So I think lithy right there, boom, it would be really helpful. The next group that it might be really helpful for is you're like, yeah, great, skills are great. But I have no room, right? I have no space to do this. I have no room. Well, lithy's really beautiful at giving expansion, and it's a dilator, and it creates room. On the physical body, it creates room for us to breathe and take in oxygen. And but what it does on this emotional level is, hey, maybe you have more room than you think you do. Of course, if we're locked down with old ways of doing things and dogma and expertise, we won't have much room. But this will expand it. And then I think the third reason I think it could be really useful is, you know, maybe this is coming off of gate 20, is that slowing down to contemplate what you're doing. So you're not just doing it. And I think about Mars squaring Pluto, you know, getting the job done looks different to different people in the world. And we might on the world stage see some jobs done we don't really appreciate. That's not the direction we would choose. And so I think lithy gives a little bit of slowing down. So there's time to go into response rather than coming right from reaction.
Yeah, that's cool because the thing I didn't talk about is the polarity gate for gate 16 is gate 9. And 9 is the gate of focus, right? And so as the sun's in 16, you know, trying to learn skills, gate 9 is grounding you in the earth with this ability to focus. And so it's interesting that you know, the things you highlighted in lithy, I think, are also going to be underscored by this polarity energy that can help give you the focus that you're looking for in this time period as you might be trying to open up a bit and, you know, expand in some way.
Mm. Lithy also improves flexibility. I mean,
Oh,
the lithy branches were used for very intricate weaving and work. And so, I mean, we all could have a little more flexibility, right?
I've been doing garden yoga for the last couple of weeks, so
Because you're thinking about physical flexibility, and I went to sort of like a more cognitive thing, is because I was thinking as you were speaking, Lauren, about like poking holes in the box is what we're in,
Yes.
being more flexible in our thinking,
You just need a lithy branch to do that.
poking it through.
I love it. Yeah, so as we'll exit gate 16 on the 31st, and then the sun will enter gate 35, which in this case is actually the mirror, what we call the mirror gate. Much of the body graph is symmetrical. There are aspects that are not symmetrical, but these two gates sit on the outside of the body graph and they do mirror one another. And so on gate 16, you have all this logical splenic energy for what we just talked about, skill building. And on the other side, you have gate 35, which loves change, which is the gate of change, right? It's part of the channel of transitoriness. And so I was just reading something about it earlier and I was checking, I'm like, does my mom have this? And I went and I'm like, sure enough, she has it, because something I was reading was saying like you want to just do one thing and you want to do the thing and then you want to go on to the next thing. Like you don't want to, you're like, as 16 is over there like I'm going to do it over and over and over again until I perfect it. 35 is like, yeah, did it. I'm done. Right? You know, what's the next thing? Which is exactly what my mom does. So it's like, huh, interesting. That'll help me remember that. But so gate 35 is, we think about it a lot when we see it in people's charts. We think about boredom, right? It likes to be active. It wants new experiences. It wants change. It wants to be excited by something in life. And so, I would be curious to see how that energy comes across as we are like this is the beginning of June. We're talking like May 31st to June 6th. So keep your eyes peeled for change.
Change.
Yeah.
It was what kind of change?
I know. Let's hope it's good change.
But it's like, I was thinking about this one because there's the change and it drives progress. And at the same time, it's hard on individuals, unless like your mom, they happen to have this. And I'm a person that's keen on change too. So, but you watch other people, then they're like gritting their teeth because the change is coming. And it's like it's like there's almost this need to self-soothe that comes with this, like to feel better, and the things that we will do to soothe ourselves, and that those things can become addictions. And even if they could be things like, I mean, it's not like getting addicted to drugs or shopping or something like that. They can be little tiny things that we do. They could even be like, people that twist their hair all the time or stuff like that. But there's this trying to fill ourselves up that's going on. And that doesn't come from the outside, it comes from the inside. And that's a hard place to go. It's to stop looking outside and filling it up with activities and products and toys and that sort of thing.
It's also hard to observe in people we love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the greatest thing we can do is just keep loving them and let them figure it out, right? We can't shift that. So I'm really interested in this full moon. And the full moon actually comes on May 31st. So it comes the day before we move into gate 35. But it has gate 35 all over it. And this is really fun to look at it this way, because it's beautiful when these wisdom teachings line up like this, right? And they may not exactly speak like one another, but it's like languages, and we have different words for different things in different parts of the world. But from the astrological perspective, this is a full moon in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius loves change. Isn't that funny? Sagittarius loves adventure and spontaneity, and Sagittarius also tells it like it is. And so there's a lot of essence of truth, but the biggest through line is this freedom and spontaneity and change. And so it's interesting. I was listening to a couple different astrologers take on this full moon, and they all seem to point to that this is also a wonderful opportunity to review beliefs, right? Because what a full moon, anytime we're dealing with a full moon, it's casting light on things we don't normally see. So it's a great opportunity for that. And remember, full moon energy goes for 2 full weeks. So it's not just that day. And so it's beautiful that it would just, shed light right on gate 35 and right into gate 45 after that. It'll be interesting if that theme plays out when we talk about gate 45 as well. This spontaneity, need for spontaneity and change. And the I Ching hexagram for 35 is progress. So that also falls right in there with looking at, the gifts and opportunities you've been given and how are you making progress with them.
Yeah, it doesn't always look like progress though, right? And this is like
No.
you said before, like it's hard to watch people with this, with this energy, and partly because gate 35 is attached in the channel to gate 36, which is a gate of crisis, right? And so there is this hunger for new experiences, and it can show up in all sorts of ways. And so people, and it's an emotional channel. It's part of the human experiential way. It's here to be involved in feeling and emoting. It's all about living life, experiencing it. And so people with this energy often just jump into things, not respecting their emotional authority, right? Because they're so hungry for a new experience that they just jump in, and that's where the crisis happens. It's not really a crisis. The crisis is just that they're in a new experience that they don't yet know that they can manage, right? That's what the crisis is. And so there is a lot of what you're talking about, this energy to try new things, mess up, right? Or fail completely or whatever, or have an amazing time, right? That's also a possibility. um, but yeah, this is a like they actually use the keynote hunger, right? There's a hunger in this energy to live life fully and experience all that you can experience. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what's on offer in the wider world.
But isn't it interesting that so much of how we try to cope with all of this removes us away from the dance of life? Because it moves us off into something that's like an addictive behavior where we're just sort of repeating and repeating, even though things are supposed to be changing. And in that repetition, sort of lose track of what's really happening. It's kind of like, the animals they put in cages and they can touch something and get a,
Mm.
a sensation or a treat or something like that. And they'll just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and they lose track of what really matters in their lives. So I mean, it's kind of like sitting at the slot machine, forever. And like, do you don't notice what's going on? So there's a real push and pull in here. Like how do you really pay attention to what, and there's something somatic, what moves you? Like the last one was what enthuses you, what sort of lights you up. But this is more like it's more visceral feeling.
I wanted to, I lost track there. Sorry. My mind jumped ahead to, I want to talk about the Gemmo for this one because I think what moves you and being able to touch that and really feel it, and this active drive for more. One of the things I think that's missing is this ability to tap into kindness and self-love and compassion for ourselves. And so a Gemmo that does that really well is Almond. And it it's a cool lineup here with the astrology of the full moon, because Almond is about illumination. And the Italian word for almond mandala is the illuminating, right, circle around saints' heads that we all see. So it's about illumination and lifting up for higher ideas and thinking. But the essence of almond, when we take it, is it's really good for people that drive themselves a little hard, and that they're always going for that next challenge, and whether it's you know, to be of service and for the greater good, or it's buying new cars, either way it's still a fixation. And I think Almond, it brings this sweetness to it and this sense of showing you what you're really doing, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm just trying to relate this almond piece in because I think that there is something. So again, this is a collective emotional gate that is looking for new experience. And so the thing I'm trying to say slowly is the whole problem with new experience from a human design perspective is that we have expectations. And so if we could drop our expectations and just be with the experience, so much of our struggle and suffering would be eliminated, right? Because we're here just to experience things without expectation. I know it sounds crazy, but it's apparently true. So I don't know if almond can help with that at all, but I do feel like that is a thing to keep in mind, um, especially in this gate 35 space of like noticing what expectations you have of yourself and others. And, you know, just that is enough. But if you can go one step further, notice after that what you notice, say, does it help? Is it helping me, right? Does this make my life better? Did this make the experience better? Because what little bit I've done, I've noticed it hasn't actually. It's usually my expectations that are the thing that trip me up, right? And if I just wait and let things play out as they're supposed to, things seem a lot easier.
But Christine, you're speaking almond right there. It's that being kind to yourself and letting go of all the harshness, because that I think harshness is another word for expectations, you know, when it has to be this way or I can only do it that way. But that is exactly what almond works on.
And that the like you're talking about like opening your heart and being more kind to yourself, but then in being more kind to yourself, paying attention to where do I actually belong? Who do I actually belong
Mm.
with? And then opening your heart into those spaces. I think that there's a lot of room to move with the almond that way.
Mhm.
Mhm. Well, there we are. So it's just this final word. So thank you for being with us, and we hope we'll see you next time.